Welcome to the UFFS Podcast with Darren Bates and Larry Fisher. Shining a spotlight on the most realistic fantasy sports platform ever. If it happens in Ultimate Franchise Fantasy Sports, you'll find out here. UFFS, you own the game.
And welcome to the official UFFS podcast, proudly broadcast on the UFSN, on the UFSN, or Ultimate Fantasy Sports Network is the full name, and you can find that on YouTube. Like us, subscribe if you wouldn't mind. We've got a lot of fantastic shows on there, including this one. It's a big day for me today, personally, Fish. I got, we got the Rider jersey up there. I got my baseball glove ready. We got a few important things to talk about on the show. I'm a little bit tired. Attended a double 50th birthday party last night, but I have to keep my stamina up for the big Labor Day Classic happening today.
Absolutely. Riders and Bombers, that's always a great game, and certainly you're kind of on both sides because you live in Winnipeg and grew up in Saskatchewan, so that's always and then the Banjo Bowl next weekend is always the home and home, the rivalry. It's a great time, and seeing the ball glove there, Darren, I haven't even dusted mine off yet. It didn't even cross my mind to bring the ball glove on the show. I didn't throw a ball all summer, which is embarrassing. I barely swung a golf club, so it wasn't a great sporting summer for me, but certainly we'll be tuning into the Labor Day Classics in the CFL. Great to see them going again, and great to see obviously everything moving forward in UFFS from the fantasy or from the American Football League right into the UFLB and the UFBA with basketball and baseball right around the corner as well.
Well, you talk about dusting off the baseball glove, and I had to go look for this thing because I've had 2 seasons of my ball league canceled because of, the pandemic and things like that. But no different than the UFFS, which is, participation, whether it's fan participation, actually participating physically in the sports. It's all about just getting involved. And as you would know, that's what we're about in UFFS, is getting involved from the fantasy standpoint. And so excited to talk about, obviously, the UFLB. And I was looking at my calendar and I thought, and forever I thought we got to do a show about UFLB. We got to get Dean on here and we got to talk about this, but it's coming up. It's not for a while. And I thought, holy smokes, we're already into Labor Day weekend in September. And this is coming up in, just a couple of months. So we're gonna talk to Dean. We're gonna get, and I know it's been pedal to the metal. He's had some press releases. He's been hiring some front office staff. He's been doing a lot of things. So it's going to be really, really cool to get Dean on here and talk about UFLB, Larry. I'm really looking forward to it. And we are going to get Dean on the program right after this.
Time for a quick lineup change, but Bates and Fish will be back right away with today's guest.
And we are back. And, we've been so dang focused in UFFS with the UFAFL, and why the heck wouldn't we be? I mean, it's very exciting. It's a big league. We've been kicking off. The UFHL had a very strong, second season as well. So we talked a lot about that and with everything happening with the Klein Cup. But why have we not talked enough about baseball? Well, I guess because baseball hasn't, the season is well underway, but there's just been so much happening. UFBA launch coming up. But Dean, it's time, my friend. I know you're a man of wearing many hats within the UFFS ecosystem, and you can toot your own horn as much as you want. But how much fun is that, tooting your own horn, when we can help you toot your horn as the head of baseball operations? We are so happy to have the very Dean Millard here on the program. Welcome, Dean. Not that you didn't welcome.
No, it's fun to be here. I'm glad. You're twisting my rubber arm, getting me to come on here and talk baseball. So, real tough sell for me.
Well, we got to do that. And I even pulled out, my baseball glove that has actually been silent for 2 seasons because of this dang COVID, we're going through. But got to work it in, and it is time. So the UFLB is what we're going to talk about here today. And of course, Dean, as you would know, you're the head of sport for baseball in the UFFS. And first of all, what I want to get out of the way here is the very important dates, because you know what's crazy is time flies when you're having fun, and we're so busy, we're having fun. And I kept thinking, well, UFLB, this isn't for a while, it's not till the fall, but holy smokes, we're in fall. For goodness sakes, we're in fall, and this launch is it's not that far away, to be honest with you. It kind of freaked me out when I looked at the calendar, Dean.
Yeah, it gets closer and closer every day. We're going November 5th to 7th is the weekend that baseball fans need to be aware of. And, I always think in like August and September, am I like, well, first of all, I should tell you, Larry and I are always looking forward to the same date in November because we share the same birthday. So I know Larry is probably like this. He's always thinking in August, wow, my birthday seems so far away still. Well, when the auctions are right near my birthday, it makes my birthday seem a lot closer because every day it seems these auctions get closer and closer and faster and coming on faster. And, that you think you have a lot of time, but I don't really think you ever have enough time, especially with how big this platform is, how big this ecosystem is. So November 5th to 7th are the dates you need to know about when it comes to baseball. We are putting together an owner's package, and Larry has been a big help with that with me, so that owners do have all the information. But the dates you need, November 5th to 7th, and the rule book will be available right away for potential owners. So I want to be able to give potential owners as much runway as possible to make sure that when they commit to buying a franchise, they know exactly what is expected of them. And I think that's very important. We're all learning as we go here, as we create this amazing thing. Luckily, baseball, I get to learn from a couple of other sports. So, tip my hat to Andy and Alex and what they have going with basketball. So, and of course, with what Larry and Andrea have done with hockey. So I'm very lucky and I'm very honored and I'm very excited about launching UFLB with franchise auctions November 5th to 7th.
So I guess we should say UFLB stands for Ultimate Fantasy League of Baseball. So a little bit of a change on what we normally do, but I think that's, we had some discussion on how we were going to set that up. You've been insanely busy behind the scenes, setting this up, as well as everything else you've been doing. But so let's talk about the auction a little bit, and forgive me if we're a little bit early and you can't get into details, because I'm sure there's many things yet to come. But is this going to be a little bit of a different franchise auction process than what we have done or we just did recently in the UFAFL? I'm hearing something about star players attached. Is this how this is going to go? Oh, I see it right there, right on the screen.
Indeed. Yeah, that's exactly. So we're kind of, if we can be old school with this when it comes to UFFS, we're being old school because we're going back to what hockey did when they launched and attaching the star players. And we've talked about this a lot. We talk about everything a lot. Firstly, going back to the name, Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball. It is Major League Baseball. So it is UFLB, and we want to mimic as much, and that right down to how we recognize the league. And as far as the auction format, we will be attaching star players. I have to give Larry a lot of credit on this because he simplified this process that we were looking at to try to. You want to maximize the most excitement. You want to get a lot of bidders in there. So we will be attaching names to the franchises. And how this is going to work, and hopefully I don't butcher it, Larry, because it is a great system that you came up with. Franchises will bid on players that are attached to a franchise. So for instance, if you are bidding on the number 2 player, let's say it's Fernando Tatis Jr., because I'm pretty sure Shohei Ohtani is going to go first overall as the highest bid. But say you're bidding on Fernando Tatis and the bidding gets a little bit too high. Well, there's always going to be a 2-minute extension. We're calling it extra innings for any final bid any bid in the final 2 minutes. So if that number 2 player, Fernando Tatis, is a little too rich for you, you can drop down to any player below that and start bidding on that player. You might not get Fernando Tatis, but you'll get another player and you'll get a franchise. Opposite of that, if you're in the 13th spot, say you're bidding on Clayton Kershaw, but you want a higher pick. You want a number 2 pick. Well, you've got to basically bid yourself up in that Clayton Kershaw to get into that number 2 bidding spot, because like our auctions, the higher you bid, the higher your spot will be in the one and only draft. So franchise players will be attached. The bidding will reflect where you're picking. And also keep in mind with baseball, the top 6 bidders get the right to name a division, as long as it's named after a Hall of Famer. So a very unique draft. I think attaching players, it brings in some emotion with people, and they get really excited. And big thanks to you, Larry, for helping out and simplifying that system, because I think it's going to create a lot of excitement on November 5th to 7th.
A bit of a hybrid
Sorry,
system.
Larry. Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, I was just going to say it's a bit of a hybrid system now, because you're going to be bidding both on a player that you want as well as a draft position you want. So it's kind of in the past in hockey, you strictly bid on players, and the draft position did go by the player that went the highest, but all the players were auctioned separately, not at the same time. They closed at different times. And certainly with the UFAFL, the NFL league, the football league, you were just bidding on franchises with no players attached, and then you were able to select your franchise player in the first round of the draft. Well, essentially with UFLB, the franchise auction is the first round of the draft, because all 30 franchises will have one player. So the draft will consist of 25 rounds, because you already have your franchise player on your way to your 40-man list. So certainly it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of suspense during that auction, because there's so many moving parts of you want the player you want, but you also want the draft position you want. So it's going to be a very interesting and new hybrid format. But Dean and Alex, actually with UFBA in basketball, will get to test that format out, and we'll continue tweaking and evolving as we always do here at UFF Sports. But Dean, you have like I said, a good runway, and you're really taking advantage of it. You've got a lot of progress already. You've had you named the conferences, you named you've put out a few press releases already. Maybe just talk about just getting a head start on baseball. Maybe, because you have the runway and it won't actually start until April of 2022. Just talk about taking advantage of the runway you have.
Yeah, I think that's really important and a unique situation with baseball, Larry. I get the opportunity to learn the things that work and the things we need to improve as we go. But we also have an entire off season where we are going to be able to allow the owners to have some input on the very first season, which hasn't been able to happen yet. And I think basketball will try to do that as well. But the fact that we have we are going to have the owners package ready right away. So owners are basically going to have 2 months to learn about what this league is about. And then afterwards, the auctions are November 5th to 7th. The World Series is over. We have an entire off season to allow newcomers to crypto to get their finances in order, get the teams paid for, pick their branding, have owners meetings, sort things out. There are some things that won't change. We are on the blockchain. We are going to use a point system. We will use head-to-head in the playoffs. We have a really cool playoff draft that we used for hockey, and you'll be able to pick up players from opponents you beat. Remember as a kid, this is what I remember as a kid, is we would win a game in our playoffs, and then we'd pick up my buddy who was joining us to go to provincials or something on our baseball team. So when you knock somebody out in the UFLB playoffs, you get to pluck from their roster, because you're probably going to lose guys as we mimic the entire thing. So it's a very unique regular season / postseason format. Head-to-head in the playoffs, as mentioned. We'll have wild card, we'll have divisional, we'll have conference, we'll have championship series. So we have time to plan all of this out and make sure it is correct. I have been working on the rule book. We will have a press release every Thursday leading up to the league. We have a new show that we'll be transitioning into inside UFLB. That will take the place of Full Count Fantasy Baseball. We'll launch that in October and cover off the playoffs, because as you know, in the UFFS, the game doesn't stop in the regular season. We go right through to the end of the season. So we'll be introducing you to our team through press releases, through some interviews on that show. We'll be doing some roundtable stuff. I want to drum up as much much of attention as possible because this is the greatest and will be the greatest baseball fantasy league of all time. So the opportunity to have that runway, Larry, it's great, but it's only great if you take advantage of it. And I'm so excited that I'm trying to get as much accomplished before, because I know, as you know, once you have 30 owners, things can get very, very busy in the scouting side and everything. So as much as I can get done ahead of time, I'm trying to. And this is probably the first time in my life that my wife has ever seen me so organized in planning. So she's hoping it rubs off on the housework a little bit, as Trish would hope.
I love that new playoff format, and I know we're proposing it for hockey for the UFHL as well, that you knock out your opponent, you get to replace your empty roster spots, because you're going to lose players in the MLB playoffs in that first round or second round or divisional or conference round, and you get to take the players from your opponent that you eliminated and carry them forward. I think that's going to be a great addition to all the UFFS leagues, and starting with, baseball, basketball, hockey, and obviously football's doing a redraft after every round because they have more time each week. But I think that's going to be a cool new feature. And again, just another way to evolve the way the UFFS leagues work. And so I'm looking forward to that. I think that's a great idea. And Dean, you mentioned picking up a couple buddies on the way to provincials. You touched on scouting there. Obviously, UFLB, you've already picked up a few buddies along the way. You're building out the baseball operations staff. Maybe just touch on, I know you introduced Brian Hernandez in a press release this past week, but maybe touch on the staff and highlight a little bit about what each one's going to bring to the table for UFLB.
Yeah, you bet. Really excited about this. And I love the idea of our UFAFL redraft. And the reason we're just plucking players, as you mentioned, Larry, is there's just no time. The wild card ends and then the divisional starts. And there's just not a lot of time to be able to organize a draft. So teams will just basically email the commissioner, me, and say, here's the 4 players I'm taking, or, whatever the case may be. But as for the staff, Brian Hernandez, as you mentioned, director of scouting. Brian was a guy who joined right away. As soon as we announced baseball, he reached out, he showed some interest, has had a passion for players, had a scouting agency that I think was involved in the sale when they sold off the franchise. But they, between him and Xavier, they put together the GM of the Year award. And so, Brian's got a passion for scouting. It also helps that he's a Dodger fan like me, so that's a little brownie points that he gets there. But a guy in LA that loves baseball, has been putting together lists for a long time, as you know, Larry, because you've seen them as well. So really, really excited about Brian. And Matt Soren is our director of competition. And Matt and I, we spent a lot of time this week working on the rule book and going over and making sure and testing and rejigging and going through it with a fine-tooth comb so that when we pass it over to the owners, they can make some changes, but they'll be presented with a very competent league. And Matt and Brian are also they're the two guys that are going to, they're the two guys that really joined kind of in the beginning. And we were kind of like the tripod of the UFLB before we brought on a couple other guys. So I really have appreciated their input. Chris Dickerson joined a little bit later. He is right now the director of business development, a guy who started 24K Sports on YouTube and started a college radio station when he was in his college days, and so has an eye for business and came highly recommended by Andy McNamara. And Chris and Matt are actually going to head up the Legends League. They're going to get that kicked off when we go. And just recently, Gerald Smiley, former pitcher, as is Matt. Matt was on the Israel Olympic roster before an injury kept him out of the Olympic Games. But Gerald also pitched in the minor leagues, and he will be our director of recruitment. He's got some great contacts all over the world. So I think I have just a wonderful staff. It might say director of scouting beside Brian's name, or director of recruitment beside Gerald's name, or beside my name, it's, commissioner, but we're all doing the same thing. We're all pitching in and recruiting. We're all trying to find owners. Titles, I always say, look great on press releases and kind of gives a person a bit of a focus point, but we're all doing a little bit of everything. I'm recruiting scouts for Brian, and Brian is looking for owners for the league because it is a team effort. And I know this saying has been brought up probably a lot in the past, but where I get it from is the Alberta Golden Bears dressing room, guys. And Larry, you know how successful that program has been. And when you walk out, I was lucky enough to be a practice goalie for them for a couple of days. And when you walk out of that dressing room, the sign says, it's amazing what you can accomplish when nobody cares who gets the credit. And that's what I want. I don't care what we're doing or who's doing it, as long as we're all doing it together and we're building the best baseball team, like a regular team will be. We have our team, and the franchise owners will be building their team to be successful. And I've been able to learn from the many different fantasy leagues that I've been and many different teams that I've been on, that you can't do it alone. So looking forward to working with these guys a lot.
Man, you got a great staff looking there, Dean. It's incredible the talent that seems to come forward in this ecosystem. The names, I didn't even know that Matt played in Israel. This is kind of like investigative journalism here in what we do. And some people might think that I know everything that's going on in the UFLB, and I absolutely do not, because there's so many moving parts in UFFS, let alone in what's happening in UFLB. I just know you've been incredibly busy. So this is part of the reason I'm doing this show, is so I can find out also what's going on. A couple new names dropped. I don't think I knew about Chris Dickerson, so that's pretty cool. And Gerald Smiley, of course, I've met Gerald in Vegas, and he's certainly got a world of baseball experience. And he heads up Chip In, which is our charitable foundation as well, which is going to be a pretty cool tie-in. But I wanted to say I'm repped for the show today by wearing my Blue Jays uniform. I got my Gold Eyes cap on. It's one of my favorite summer pastimes. Haven't been yet. I know they're back here playing in Winnipeg, but unfortunately I haven't been to a game. But I wanted to tell you that you broke my heart a little bit, because you brought back some painful memories. You know how you went on to provincials or whatever, and I played ball. I was a very avid fastball player, and I was a pitcher. So, of course, a pitcher is one of those go-to people. You want to get one of the best guys, right? So, of course, when we win, and I might have had a good part in getting there, then we go pick up one of the best fastball pitchers in the area. So then I get to ride the pine, right? Because I did my part to get there, and now we go get somebody better. Actually, usually I got moved to center field, but I was okay with that too. So that's kind of my little personal brand on playing ball and what I'm wearing here today. But let's talk a little bit about scouting, because we do know that scouting is very critical in UFFS, in all sports. We've got the big futures auction coming up here in the UFAFL, and we're talking to a lot of people on why you should register for a scout. But the same will apply for baseball. If you register for a scout, for all intents and purposes of scouting in the football side, you can also scout in the baseball side. But here's where I'm going with this is, and I don't follow this near as in depth as you guys do, but the college system in baseball, I know it is crazy in football, but it's insane. I don't even know how many thousands of players might be out there in the college ranks. Dean and Larry, I know you guys would probably have a good idea, but this scouting is, you got to have someone, if a scout is aligned with your franchise, which we would recommend, these people have to really spend some time in finding prospects out there in the world.
Yeah, and baseball is a little bit more unique in some of the other sports. Football is a beast of its own, but 99% of those guys are coming out of colleges or universities in North America. Hockey, like baseball, is a global game. Basketball is becoming a global game. But in hockey and basketball, you get drafted just like every other player. Baseball, there's a lot of unique rules. For instance, a guy can get drafted and decide that he does not want to play for the Baltimore Orioles, so he's not going to sign with them, and he's going to go back into the draft later on. There are international player signings where players are not in the draft but are from different locales, Latin America, over in Europe, Asia. Obviously, we're seeing what's happening with guys like Shohei Ohtani and Ichiro in the past. So baseball is a little different, and that's where we still have some decisions to make. Not everything has been set in stone, so potential changes could happen. But we're exploring different ways to, work in the international free agent. Maybe it's auction on its own. Maybe those players are worked in with some of the future players. but some of them are pro players already. They're past the rookie status. So we need to work out some tweaks because baseball has some very unique and interesting rules. I mean, you're a free agent in baseball after 6 years, and a lot of teams and a lot of players have been complaining about Major League Baseball teams kind of manipulating their service time so that they can keep them longer. And then here's the other thing, guys, with baseball, and I said this to Larry the other day, big asterisk on a lot of stuff because MLB and the MLBPA, they will have CBA negotiations this offseason. So a whole lot of things could change. As we know, we try to mimic whatever league we are basing our sport on. So if baseball CBA changes, that means our CBA and our rule book will change as well. But definitely a lot of unique things. When it comes to scouting, Brian Hernandez has his eye on a lot of the talent. The cool thing is we will be starting in franchise auctions in November. We will have our one and only playoff franchise 25 player draft in probably late February, early March. And then we will have futures auctions. Well, scouts oftentimes discuss the fact that it's a long time for them to get return on investment unless they're selling to another scout. There will be guys drafted in February or March that will be drafted by franchises in June or July. So an opportunity for some scouts to maybe make a little bit of a return on investment, get some quick ROI, because those players that will be auctioned off in our futures auction, their stock will be going up as they're playing college or high school leading up to the 2022 draft, wherever they are playing. So there will be an opportunity for scouts right off the bat to get involved in that. As mentioned, some things could change, and I don't want to step on Brian's toes too much, but he's got it pretty well worked out. We will be scouting 3 years in advance like other sports, provided we can make sure we have all the data and things like that. But Brian will have his work cut out for him. As Larry knows, there's always players that come in that you don't know. And I know certainly Brian, that's one of the exciting things he's looking forward to is to start learning about some of these new players that the scouts will be bringing him. But a vast world to choose from when it comes to baseball, and might be a few different ways to get those players depending on how we format things when all is said and done.
So, Dean, we, as head of baseball operations, that doesn't mean you're just head of UFLB, which is the mirroring league to the Major League Baseball. But this is all things baseball. Now, what about, we talk about this a lot in football, the Legends Leagues. Any plans for that? I actually haven't heard anything, and maybe I did, and maybe I forget because my age is catching up with me. But I'm just wondering about Legends Leagues. Is that part of the plan in the future as well?
Yeah, already in the planning. The two guys on here, Matt Soren and Chris Dickerson, will be heading up the Legends League. And, I'm sure Gerald will be able to provide some input and some help there as well. So those are the two guys that are kind of focusing on it right now because once we get the franchises auctioned and scouts and we'll get into it, people will settle into their roles. So they are looking into what we're going to do with the Legends League. I see the possibilities just massive with Baseball Legends League. I mean, look at the history of baseball. We're approaching 150 years of pro baseball, Major League Baseball. So just think of the amount of players. I think when all is said and done, we could have up to 10, 30-team Legend Leagues. I really think the possibility is there to have that many because there are so many great baseball players in the history of the game, and there will continue to be more. So the way I think Legends League is a great opportunity to have, many different leagues, some sort of relegation where the top 5 move up, the top 5, bottom 5 move down. It's not, I don't think it would be inconceivable, even if you started on the 4th wave of the Legends League, there's already 3 leagues, you could still get into that first league because there are so many star players. And I don't know how we are going to work out the Legends League statistics, whether it's an average or it's the best season or whatever it is. But there are some players out there. I mean, you look at Barry Bonds' season for home runs. If you're taking the best season, it's going to be pretty impressive. Bob Gibson had one of the greatest seasons on the mound, and they changed the game because of it in 1968. So the Legends League has massive potential. I cannot wait to see it. I cannot wait for it to grow in a sport that has so much history.
speaking of asterisks, Dean, on the Barry Bonds home run record season, might have to add one of those into the Legends League. But the players from that era will definitely have value with the long ball, no doubt. But I can't wait to see, like I said, the tiering and how you move up and down and how the stats change from year to year, because it's not going to be static. It's not going to be the same. And there'll be injury elements and all the rest. So it's going to be the guys that are putting their minds together on the Legends League side and the simulation side. It's going to be a real fun product that will debut this, I guess, Q1 of 2022 with the AFLL, the American Football Legends League. They're going to be auctioning franchises actually already in October. So we will see soon enough how Legends League will take off, starting with football and working its way through all the other sports, as well as college leagues. I know college football will likely start in 2022. So there will be minor leagues coming as well. So it's just going to be great to see how it all plays out. But Dean, one thing that you're somewhat involved in and I'm finding really interesting is obviously the UFFS gameplay engine is under development. And that the plan is to debut the UFFS gameplay engine with baseball. Baseball will be the first sport that has live gameplay on the UFF Sports platform. Talk about that process. I know you're working with the tech team, but just some ideas that you have there, because we talked about mirroring the real world and Ohtani and how he would have to be both a pitcher and a hitter for his franchise. Talk about the realism you can bring through the gameplay engine.
Yeah, and that is something that I really have been stressing to our wonderful tech department. I'm sure they're sick of it. I'm sure they're having, waking up in a cold sweat thinking Ohtani because I keep pounding it into them. But in every fantasy league I have played, I have not seen a fantasy league yet where you get to have Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher and Shohei Ohtani as a batter. Most of them, you're picking one or the other. It's like, remember, Gretzky's assists and goals would get split up in hockey pools for the playoffs or whatever because it was too good. So I'm really working hard to make sure that if Shohei Ohtani is on the hill and he goes 7 strong, strikes out 8, hits a 2-run homer, also stole a base, you get points for everything. I was looking like Shohei Ohtani right now in our kind of fake league. If he was combined, he would be an over 500 point player, and I think the next guy, Vlad Guerrero, is in the 460s or something. So it would be, or maybe the 380s or what it was. Shohei Ohtani would be the runaway winner when it comes to fantasy if you're combining his stats. Not a lot of leagues do that. I really am pressing for that. Baseball also has these things called rainouts. You may have heard of them, but in a lot of fantasy leagues I'm in, you put a guy in to start, you check back later, oh, the game is rained out, you can't take him out. That's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. I saw that in some hockey leagues that I was in when it came to COVID. The Montreal Canadiens couldn't play for a week. My guy was stuck in the lineup for a week. I do not want that in the UFLB. That will not happen. There has to be an opportunity for you to change a guy out if his game has been postponed because of Mother Nature. That is just ridiculous. So there's a lot of things that I'm working with the tech team to try to make sure we do have it down. We will have positional specific. In baseball, it happens for everything except for the outfield. You look in all baseball leagues that I've played in, you just put in an outfielder. In this league, you're going to have a left fielder, a center fielder, a right fielder. I'm pushing for that a little bit for discussion in hockey. I don't know how easy it would be to do in hockey. It's much easier in baseball because guys are positionally defined. But we are going to make it real, as real as possible. And those are the things that I think. I think some of the things that are cool about baseball gameplay is that when you log in to see your guy, in a lot of places, it tells you not only if he's starting, but where he's hitting in the lineup, because that is a major factor for a lot of guys. So I want to make this as realistic as possible. I mean, Dave Roberts wouldn't be forced to put a guy in his lineup if the game was rained out, so neither should somebody who owns a franchise in this league. And I've been working hard with the tech team and talking to them about some of the problems, but also some of the really good things out there and some of the layouts that we want to bring in. So this is... It's wild. It's fun. It's amazing. You feel a little bit like Frankenstein as you're kind of trying to put something together for the first time. And I can't wait. I can't wait for the franchise auctions, but I can't wait for opening day in 2022 just to see this beast take off.
And like Darren said, time flies when you're having fun. That opening day, April 2022, will sneak up on us for sure. I know you're working on the franchise player list. The team is, Dean. How much is this season impacting that? Obviously, the boys of summer. Now we're coming into fall. Like Darren said, we're into September. Guys like Mike Trout, we haven't mentioned his name yet. Kind of a perennial MVP type guy who would have obvious legends value, everything else. But he's obviously been hurt this year, maybe not having his best season. How much do you think recency bias or the current season is going to play into the franchise players? And certainly the fact that franchise auction, Dean, is timed perfectly, that you can ramp up hype throughout the MLB playoffs. Franchise auctions are going to be the weekend following the conclusion of the World Series. Like I said, both of us have a birthday on the Monday after, the 8th of November. Hopefully lots to celebrate for Dean Millard coming off the franchise auction. But just talk about putting together that franchise player list and how closely you're monitoring this season. You're looking at players that are going to have huge value in the future, the up-and-comers. You're looking at legends value, kind of putting that all together to come up with 30 star players to attach to these franchises for bidding.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we have a meeting this Wednesday. We're going to be discussing a number of things, but that's how one thing we're going to discuss is how do we want to put those lists together? I mean, certainly a guy like Mike Trout, even though he's been injured this season, he's going to be very high on that list, perennial or future Hall of Famer. Obviously, the Legends League value is there, and plus the fact that he will rebound, and hopefully the Angels get their act together and get Mike Trout into the playoffs at some point. But how do we put this list together? I think there should be a mix of pitchers and hitters, a good mix, a good balance. I would like to see sort of a mix of guys that are, maybe in their prime right now, guys that are still yet to maybe get to their prime, but, a few of those guys that are, up and coming studs, and then some guys that maybe, like, Jacob deGrom is an older guy. If he ever stays healthy, he's the GOAT. Like, he is the best pitcher in the game. What is his value? There's that Legends League. I mean, if you would have attached players to teams in the UFAFL, I would have been interesting to see what Tom Brady would have went for because of that value. He went high in that draft, but would Tom Brady been included in the franchise players because he is a lot closer to retiring than he is to the start of his career? But you have to factor in that Legends League value. So I would love to see some balance, and it's going to be a discussion between 5 of us. So we're going to have to take 5 different lists and get them down to 1. But that's great, and I tell the guys in my group all the time is I'm going to push back on your ideas, but it's only because I want to make sure we have the best ideas, and I want pushback on my ideas as well, because I don't want 4 other yes men, or I don't want people that just are along for the ride. I want people that want to build the best fantasy league ever, and you don't do that by just agreeing on everything, because sometimes you have an idea and you think it's great, but there's something that could be fixed with it or tweaked or pivoted, and it gets even better. And as I mentioned earlier, it's amazing what you can do when nobody cares who gets the credit.
Dean, I think we talked at the start of this interview that you're a man of many hats within the UFFS ecosystem, and I don't know if we'll have you back on this show by the time we launch the UFLB. I'm thinking we probably have to do at least one, but you're also transitioning your Full Count Fantasy Baseball podcast to Inside the UFLB, I think you name dropped it here today. So there's going to be a lot of updates, a lot of information that people, if they tune into that, will certainly know what's going on, and not that we need to bring you on this show to give people the information, because it'll be there. We can see on the screen on all the different ways to reach out to you and to get information as well. And of course, we have the Telegram chat, some weekly fun little games that we've been doing for most of the year already, and opportunity to win some score. But here's where I'm going to take a complete U-turn right now on this interview. And as I said, you've done so many different things. You're involved in the UFHL as a franchise owner, in the UFAHL as well, producing podcasts and all this stuff. So, and I know that you're very knowledgeable in many different sports. So why baseball for you?
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I learned to skate when I was 3. I showed you guys the pictures of that rink I learned to skate on. But down the road was a ball diamond that we played at, and that rink that I learned to skate on we played baseball at it in the summertime because it had a fence, so it was great. You could actually hit home runs. But I remember as a kid, I played soccer 1 year. I played hockey my whole life. My parents were like, "Hey, we're going to put you in soccer." I don't even think I lasted a year. I'm like, listen, I got to do something more than running and kicking. I got to do something. So then we got into baseball, and I started liking it. I really played it all summer and was a huge Expos fan at as a kid, Pirates fan because of Tony Pena. And then 1988 happened. We were watching my brother try out for an SJHL team, and this guy right here, Kirk Gibson, hit a home run off of Dennis Eckersley in Game 1 of the World Series in 1988. The game was called by Vin Scully, who is my broadcasting idol, along with Bob Cole. That's why the Vin Scully Conference was created in our league. And I fell in love with the Dodgers and just baseball and even more in that. So I was like, what was I in 88? I was 13 or 12. I was not even 13 yet because of the late birthday that Larry and I have. So I was a 12-year-old kid that fell in love with a new sport. I thought all my life, all I wanted to do up until that was be a hockey player. And I fell in love with baseball. And I've had like a two-time love relationship with hockey and baseball ever since. I love them equally. I oftentimes when I'm working, I'll just have whatever ball game going on in the background and listening to it. I love listening to it on the radio. I'm a romantic. I'm a nostalgic with baseball. So, all the sappy, cliche stuff about baseball, I would inject that into my veins if I could, because I just love everything about it. And I love that we now have 2 Hall of Famers that are Canadians and maybe another one in Joey Votto down the road. Who knows? But it's a wonderful game. I love the fact playing it that you're part of a team, but you're also an individual. I mean, you're standing up there at the plate by yourself. Somebody's giving you like signals of take or whatever, but nobody's telling you when to swing. You got to decide that on your own. Same with a pitcher. But then there's the team aspect. You want to turn a double play? Pretty hard to do that by yourself. Sometimes you can, but pretty hard. Usually you need a teammate and things like that. Relay throws. There's just a really beautiful balance between team and individual. And I just love everything about the rich history of the game as well.
Thanks for that personal feedback, Dean. You know me, I'm always more of a human interest type of guy, and I want to know the backstory behind everybody and everything. So you're probably not expecting this, and I know we're probably a month away from the start of playoffs, I guess, in the majors. Mm-hmm. Do you have any predictions? American League, National League, and World Series winner? I'm going to put you on the spot because this is obviously recorded, and we're going to come back to this.
Sure.
So I hope you have someone in mind.
Yeah, I'm doing this kind of out of, I'm wishful thinking. I would love to see, I'm obviously going to go with the Dodgers, but I'd love to see Dodgers-Yankees, 2 biggest markets in Major League Baseball. Imagine the bets Mooch and I could get going. Like, Mooch is a big Yankees fan of 7 Seas, Red Army, and what's the 7 Seas football team? The name escapes me.
The Rage.
The Rage, right. So great names. I think his daughter chose that. That's awesome. So I think there'd be great some betting between Mooch and I, who I've gotten to know and really like. So I would just love it too, because the Yankees and the Dodgers for so many years in the 70s went head to head 3 years in a row, I believe, and Reggie Jackson just crushed them. And then finally in 81, the Dodgers were able to win the World Series. So I think it'd be great for baseball because it'd put so many eyeballs on it, and in turn great for the UFLB because then some more eyeballs on that one. So Yankees, Dodgers, and I don't even need to tell you who's going to win.
Yeah, okay, we'll figure that one out. I actually think, obviously 2 American teams, so they're not Canadian teams like what happened in the early 90s, and then the Baseball League goes on strike, so that just can't happen, right? I was so ticked off with that, and I kind of stopped watching baseball after that. But thanks, Dean, for joining us as you're here anyway, but for this, because, it was... I know you've been working your can off on this UFLB, and there's been so many things happening that we couldn't avoid this any longer. And as I said, I looked at my calendar and I thought, holy smokes, we're almost there. So thanks for giving us some details today on what's happening in the UFLB. Look very much forward to getting this thing off the ground, as well as all our other sports that are coming up here in the next little bit. Coming up soon, we've got we're Fisher and I are going to talk about some other very important dates and happenings in the UFFS ecosystem, and that'll be coming up right after this.
This is the UFFS Podcast, ultimate franchise fantasy sports, where you own the game.
Well, the countdown is on to the Labor Day Classic, which I fully intend to watch, and I got to get some wobbly pops on ice here and stuff, Fish. So we got to get moving. But hey, that was so good to have obviously our producer here. It's not like he isn't here, Dean Millard, and talking about the UFLB. So exciting! Another big major launch, sports launch in the UFFS. He's been working so incredibly hard. We couldn't not talk about it anymore. So it was so good to get a lot of those details here on the air here today, Fish.
It was, and hearing Dean talk about the history of baseball and how much he likes the history of baseball, for some reason my mind kept going to Field of Dreams and build it and they will come, and that's sort of the way I think Dean's working with obviously the gameplay engine side and some really innovative stats, because baseball is such an analytic sport and has so many different stat categories to choose from, way more so than hockey or a lot of other sports. So I think he's going to have a very cool scoring system, including with the UFFS gameplay engine, but really just that Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And then, that leads you right into the Legends League, because that's how you can kind of envision the Legends League, like a Field of Dreams. And it was so cool this year to see Major League Baseball reenact the Field of Dreams and have the game with the cornfield entrances and everything else. It was super cool. But yeah, can't wait to have the first pitch in the UFLB come April.
Yeah, that Field of Dreams is cool. And I think if I saw some stats, the viewership for that was, I think, off the charts. It actually set records for the number of people to watch that game. But you know what? Dean said it best. I didn't even think of this. It didn't even occur to me. 150 years of history in baseball. That's going to bring a whole new cool dynamic to the Legends League. And he just got my brain going with that. And I'm probably not going to sleep tonight thinking about all the different tiers and levels and eras that you can bring into that. But I got to be honest with you, the reason that I started thinking is why we got to talk about UFLB is I've been talking to a number of different people, whether it's in the UFFS ecosystem or friends or family that's kind of sometimes come to me and say, hey, what's going on with this thing you're involved in? And I talk about the different sports. And the number of people that have come forward lately and said, I'm holding out for baseball. Baseball is my thing. You can just tell the level of importance to baseball. So that's why I thought, man, I know there's a lot of work going on. We got to talk about this. So I'm so glad we did. On to a totally different subject, though. We're quite involved with the punch boxing, a fantastic league, boxing league in India. And, they had a major event here just on the 3rd, I believe, of September. It's on the Punch Boxing YouTube channel. And don't spoil it for me, Larry, because I haven't watched all of it yet. But I did watch, the one match featuring Cigar versus Raul, and I did see that one, and it was an amazing fight. It went the distance all the way to round number 8, and then it came down to decision. And it was good to see Cigar. He was on one of my podcasts, a little while back. To him take the official, what was it, the WBC, I believe, Asia Continental belt in the super welterweight. And congratulations, that was a fantastic fight.
Fantastic fight, fantastic presentation and promotion as well. Being that, the Punch Boxing has been India's biggest boxing promotion, and a lot of professionalism there, and really cool to help expose them to the North American market and promote them through UFF Sports. But yeah, I also tuned in a bit, Darren, and I thought the quality of I'm a combat sports guy myself. I love boxing, big MMA guy as well. Any combat sport I'm interested in. And I was impressed with the action. Everybody came to fight. They pushed the pace. There was a couple fights that were really action-packed that I enjoyed. There was one where the one guy, he was quite a bit taller than his opponent, and he just kept loading up the overhand right over and over and pushing the pace, and his opponent wouldn't go down. It was a heck of a fight too. And the fact that all the fighters, boxers came to put on a show, and that's what makes it, right? You can have the best presentation ever, but if the fights, without a lack of a better word, if the fights suck, the show sucks, right? But here you had a great show to start with the presentation, and the fighters really, the boxers came to perform and put on a show. So all in all, I think Arif Khan and the team at the Punch Boxing have to be happy with the way the latest event went over, especially coming out of COVID, to get fighters back in the ring, boxers back in the ring, and put on that kind of a show. I think just takes the punch boxing to another level again.
Yeah, that never say die attitude. They've struggled hard with the pandemic in India, so it was good that they were able to continue on with the dream and put that thing together. I was super excited to watch it. Man, the punch boxing, there's something different about it. It's very raw. It's a slugfest. I even watched some of the women fights there, and it's amazing to watch. It's very, very it's very, very exciting, and I don't know. I think I'm going to become a big fan as this further goes along. I don't want to hear what happened with Harsh Gilby because I haven't watched that fight. So, like I said, don't be a spoiler for me. I still have plans to watch the rest of that this weekend. Hey, let's talk about a couple of podcasts. The Ultimate Roundtable podcast. It was preempted by the UFAFL. Was it the draft? I guess we did. So there was just too much going on that weekend to complicate it with anything else. But we're going to bring that up again, starting again here in September. It's a monthly podcast. We'll be looking for participants. So watch in Telegram for an announcement from me on that. The UFAFL Nation podcast coming up again on Tuesday. Skriz has got a cool thing going, and that'll keep everybody up to date. And he'll actually have something of substance to talk about. Not probably, he always has something of substance to talk about, but he'll be able to start to talk about actual league play and fantasy points after this week as the NFL kicks off here. I think on September the 9th is the date. And Fish, we have to talk about scouting. I know some say you're talking about scouting too much, but how can we not? I've talked to a number of people. I don't know, should we have a scout aligned with our ownership group? And I'm saying, yes, this is very important. I know you know an awful lot about it, Larry, a lot more than I do. But why is it important for people to have a scout aligned with their franchise?
So after the initial player draft, Darren, and now we've got into the free agent auctions leading up to week 1 of the NFL season, franchises can request free agents be put up for auction. After this weekend, every single player that enters the UFAFL or any UFFS league comes in through a scout. A scout has to register the player on the blockchain and then sell or auction their rights to a franchise. So if you're a franchise owner or a GM, it's unlike any other fantasy league where you just go to the waiver wire and pick the guy you want for the next day. Here you need that scout to find the player, find the talent, identify the talent for you, and then they almost develop the talent until they're draft eligible, ready to make the jump to the NFL. They develop them during their college playing days, and then pass them along through the rookie auction. Every franchise can bid on them. If they don't go there, they can be direct sold to their affiliated franchise. But certainly if you're a staff member for a franchise, you want to have a scout, or if you're a GM, you want to become a scout. Every franchise should have their own scout in all sports in UFFS, because if you don't have a scout, Darren, you're paying top dollar for every player you get, because you're not going to go to another scout that you're not affiliated with. That you don't have that cost certainty, then you have to meet their asking price. If you have your own scout, you come up with a contract and how the scout's going to get funded, and how you're going to get cheap talent as a feeder system, or use the scout as a revenue generator. But certainly step number 1 is basically you got to register as a scout. Owners can't be scouts and scouts can't be owners. That's the rule. But an owner's son, spouse, etc. can be a scout. Certainly, I believe every franchise in the UFAFL has staff. They have GMs, assistant GMs, coordinators, capologists. Get one of your staff members on as a scout, or hire somebody who has a scouting expertise. And here you see the steps. So you register as a scout, then you just go to my account in the top right corner, and right there you'll see become a scout. Click that. But before you can click become a scout, you need to have the crypto in place. You need to have your score coin in place. So the way to go about acquiring score coin, step 1 is you got to set up, you got to buy Zil as your step 1. So first step is to buy Zil. Second step is to set up your ZilPay wallet, because you'll need that. And then you got to swap Zil for score on Zil Swap. Here you see it. So yeah, you connect your ZilPay wallet to Zil Swap. You swap your Zil for score, and then you send your score and your Zil to the UFFS wallet. So you use your ZilPay wallet to transfer to the UFFS wallet. Sounds confusing, sounds convoluted. Once you've done it once or twice, Darren, it becomes a very easy process. The first step, though, obviously, you got to enter the crypto world. If you're not already there, you got to buy Zil, which is obviously Zilliqa, our big partner. We're on the Zilliqa blockchain, so everything works in the Zil ecosystem as well. And then, you get your ZilPay wallet set up. You connect it to ZilSwap. Then it's pretty simple. You literally just enter in the amount of Zil you want to convert over to Scorecoin, know the conversion. It'll show you right there. Swap it, and then send it over to your UFFS wallet, because you will need, when you register as a scout, you'll need $25 one-time fee of Scorecoin, USD, and you will need a few Zil as well. For every transaction on the blockchain, there's almost like a tax. It's called a gas fee. So any transaction you make, you need a little bit of Zil in your wallet just to cover the blockchain tax, I call it. So you'll need both Scorecoin and Zilliqa in your UFFS wallet when you click Become a Scout on step 3. But certainly you want to, every franchise should be making it a priority this week, Darren. The futures auction is coming up on Saturday, September 11th. That's your chance to really start developing that feeder system, or use those assets as a revenue generator for your franchise. If you're pooling resources with your scout, it's a great way to get involved in scouting through the inaugural futures auction. There'll be 96 prospects up. That's going to be huge. And then the open market on Monday. You don't want to get in late. If you look at hockey, Darren, the early adopter scouts have been killing it, and the same will be for football. The guys that get in early are going to get the cream of the crop. So if you don't have a scout and you miss this first week, you're going to be playing catch up. You're going to be behind and chasing the pack. So certainly make it a priority to get a scout in place before Saturday.
Absolutely. And as you say, it looks convoluted. It looks confusing. If you've done it a couple of times, it's not that bad. I've done it a few times myself. And you can see now on the screen, and by the way, I should say first and foremost, what we showed up, those steps on how to do everything, DM any one of us in the UFFS podcast or on Telegram, I should say, and we can send you out the steps and help you, walk you through it. The draft prospects, this is really cool. The UFAFL, Andy and his team and Jamie Thomas have been putting these things out as director of scouting. And you can see here another 10. I think these come out every day on some of the top prospects that can be bid on here in the 20 that will be draft prospects in the 2022 NFL. So I think that's really helpful. You can kind of get some names, see their stats, see their weight and their height and where they're from, and kind of keep an eye on them. So I think that's a really nice feature they've added. And hey, we did that rookie draft for the 2021 draft class, guys that aren't even proven yet, basically, or not in the NFL anyways. And what a fantastic auction that was, Larry. It blew my mind. Just under 1.4 million score. You can see it here up on your screen. Is going into the prize pool. So this is where we start to fund the prize pool. This is really important to get these leagues off the ground, and it's a big kickoff. And it was really cool to see. I think the Circus Sports Trout was almost owning the auction there for a little while, and then the Valkyries were in there, and the Gridiron Seals as well. So they were the top three, I guess. What do you call it? Spenders, I guess, in the rookie auction. So that was really fun to watch. I watched the whole thing, and that was an amazing auction and very successful as well, Larry. So good to see a lot of activity in the UFAFL, and great work by Jamie Thomas to get these daily prospects up there, as you saw on the screen. I think there was another one released actually today that we didn't have time to get up here right now. So it's looking good. Yeah, it's looking exciting.
Yeah. The rookie auction really set the bar for the futures auction, right? Because the rookie auction is these incoming NFL rookies, Trevor Lawrence and everybody else from the 2021 NFL draft class. Now you're looking at previewing the 2022 and 2023 NFL draft classes. Jamie Thomas has his top 64 for 2022 and his top 32 for 2023 for combined 96 prospects up for auction this Saturday in the UFAFL futures auction. So there's your chance. If you get a scout in place, you can start identifying some of this talent that's coming up and kind of get a controlling interest in them as they develop through college. Hopefully they stay the course or trend up even higher, and then maybe find a steal in there as well, and then turn your attention to the open market. But certainly the rookie auction was an overwhelming success, thanks in large part, like you said, to Circus Sports Trout and Derek Stevens and his team. It's been awesome to follow them on Twitter and see what professional fantasy sports really looks like, and and see the seriousness that they're putting, the effort they're putting in, the staff they're assembling. They're going to be a force in the UFAFL, and everybody else, though, all the other franchises should be celebrating that success from the rookie auction, because look at that prize pool. And regardless of who bought the most rookies and how much impact they may or may not make in season one, that prize pool is there for all 32 franchises to win. So it's going to be a competitive first season. I think roster cut down day is Tuesday. There's still some free agent auctions going, some big buys there as well, some bidding wars. So it's high stakes. We all knew fantasy football would be the highest stakes. It's a $1 billion industry in the real world, and it's certainly proving that way with the competitive fire we're seeing from the franchises already. And now we're going to see what the scouts, both the independent scouts, because we do have some of those, as well as the affiliated scouts, how they're going to, what kind of resources they're going to bring to the futures auction. And it'll be interesting to see those bidding wars on the Spencer Rattlers and the top prospects for 22 and 23. So can't wait to see the futures auction this weekend. Jamie Thomas has been doing a great job, like you said, Darren, promoting that. And it's going to be another fun event to watch play out. And then leading into the open market, where, as you mentioned, Darren, no franchise can get another player on the roster without their scout plucking them from the open market. So it's going to be important to have scouts starting this week, and hopefully we see another wave of scouts ahead of that futures auction on Saturday.
Absolutely. So that's one important date we just mentioned. September 11th, starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, I believe, is the futures auction. And we've got a few other important dates we probably should just mention. Obviously, the UFBA auction is coming up September the 24th and 26th. As I said, I'm loving hockey. Loving the football, gonna love the basketball, and gonna love the baseball, and many more things to come. But the roster deadline, as you said, cut down to September the 7th, and the UFAFL season kicks off in combined with the NFL, obviously September 9th. Futures auction September 11th, and the open market September 13th. The owners meeting still happening here, Fish. I know you're very involved in that. I'm not as much, but a couple more meetings coming up there, I believe. And we talked about the UFBA. Is there anything else we're missing that people should know about?
No, you covered it all off, Darren. Good job. And yeah, certainly there's been a lot of voting in the UFHL, a lot of changes coming to the UFHL. There was an appetite for change amongst the hockey franchises, tweaking their scoring systems, scoring categories. And now going into this Saturday, they'll be discussing roster sizes, transactions, different types of things related to rosters and transactions. And then their final meeting will be more of an open floor discussion on some big picture ideas for the future. So, and you're right, Darren. The next big event is the franchise auction for Ultimate Fantasy Basketball Association. Alex LeBlanc will have his rule book out, I believe, this coming week for the UFBA. So keep an eye out for that rule book and discussing all things UFBA in the coming week, as well as, of course, watching the NFL and UFAFL season kickoff this coming Thursday.
And as you mentioned, the owners are voting on things and changes, potential changes in leagues, because that is what the UFFS is about. You own the game. The owners are active participants. If you don't like something, you table a potential change and then you vote on it. That's how it works, and that's how it's going to work in every sport. And I want to thank, obviously, Dean Fish again, as always. One of the busiest men in fantasy sports, Mr. Everything, I guess Jamie Thomas calls you. But I don't know. I think you got competition now with Andy and Dean and Alex. So we'll see. But I appreciate you helping me out on this podcast. Always looking for more talent, whether it is for podcasts here at UFSN, front office staff in our leagues. Find me on Telegram. Find Dean. Find Larry. Find Alex. Find Andy or anybody. Or you can email me, Darren. darren.ufsn@uffsports.com, or Twitter at DarrenBates5. This is a wrap on episode number 29 here on UFSN. I'm Darren Bates. We got Fish, we had Dean, and thank you for joining us here on the UFSN. This is for UFFS, the official podcast where you own the game.
This has been the UFFS Podcast with Darren Bates and Larry Fisher. Get in the game where you own the game at www.uffsports.com.